Married men of Reddit, what moment with your future wife made you think, yup, I'm asking this girl to marry me? Please consider subscribing if you enjoy the video. My dad told me he knew he wanted to marry my mom when the McDonald's opened in Moscow after the USSR crumbled and she ate 6 Big Macs in a row. I've posted this before, but since you asked, when I was a young lad I had bought a pair of swords. Now for some reason I still had them, but when my now wife agreed to come over my place I decided to hide them in a storage closet because why would any grown man have these? So, a while down the line she was looking for something in said closet when I heard, what the hell? You have swords? Why are you hiding these? I was prepared to be mocked mercilessly, when instead she handed me one and then started swinging. It was about that time that I realized I was going to marry her. When I first told my father that I was dating someone new, he jokingly asked, "What's her name? What does she do? What's her bra size?" I told her about it, hoping to prepare her for his sense of humor, and she thought it was hilarious. The first time they met she introduced herself by saying, "Hi, I'm Stephanie. I'm in college and I'm a B-cup." My father was horrified, my mother was laughing hysterically, and I was in love. I got mad and yelled at her for some stupid shit because I had been in a toxic relationship prior to meeting her and I thought that what couples did, scream and argue. I expected her to yell back at me, but she just stared at me for a moment and asked if I was done. I said I was, and she proceeded to explain to me that people who love one another do not treat each other that way. We can disagree with one another, but there's no reason to be mean. If we're going to be together, please don't be mean to me again. That was 26 years ago. We've been married 25 years. We had a long-distance relationship. We lived 3 to 4 hours away from each other the entire time we dated. We had met at a concert and traded emails and MSN info. Classic. We emailed and chatted every day, sometimes for hours. We poured our hearts out about our fears and dreams. I'd go visit her every other weekend, and she'd come once in a while my way. About 3 or 4 months into doing this, I'm at home chilling at home playing some game in my room. My dad calls up the stairs that I got a package in the mail. So I, confused, come walking down the stairs, and there she was. She came up to visit as a surprise. Without thinking, I instinctively ran to her and hugged her and lifted her and spun her a bit, and I felt in my heart a wholeness, like holding her filled in something I was missing. I knew then that I never would let her go, metaphorically speaking. Been married over 9 years, and I still get that feeling when I hug and kiss her. I left my favorite CD in her car, Dream Theater Scenes from my memory. She wasn't a huge fan, but put up with it whenever I listened. One day I was on the phone with her while she was driving, and we said goodbye but she forgot to hang up. I waited a few seconds and I heard her singing along. Have to post this for my dad. My parents met 39 years ago last Friday, in a lineup for a movie. My mom's friend knew my dad from another friend and introduced them. My dad was known as a wild guy, and my mom was seriously considering becoming a nun. Naturally, they started dating. Couple months later, my mom found a lump in her breast. My dad's aunt died of breast cancer very young, and it just freaked him out, I guess. My mother had the lump removed and thank God it was benign, but my dad had already rushed out and bought an engagement ring. He always claims he knew from the moment he saw her, but a couple of glasses of wine and he will tell you that he saw what life could be like without her, and it wasn't worth living. They never fight, they always work together, and my mom's heart still skips a beat when he comes home from work. Engaged. Our first date lasted 12 hours because we just couldn't stop talking. Our second date was supposed to be just dinner and it lasted almost 2 days. She drove away after the second date and I couldn't imagine my life without her in it. I was ecstatic to find out she felt the same. In my first week as licensed as a paramedic, I had a 2-year-old die on me. When I got off work, I drove to my girlfriend's place and told her about my day. I was pretty numb at the time, trying to process this kid's death despite all my efforts. I lay down on her couch, and she just wrapped her arms around me and laid with me for 3 to 4 hours as I tried to process. She didn't push or ask lots of questions, just laid there quietly and held me. I slowly was able to talk my way through it, and then the tears started. She cried with me. I felt the whole world was so dark and ugly, but she was my island of light. Started saving up for a ring that week, and asked her to marry me 6 months later. In September we celebrate our 5-year wedding anniversary. I'm still a paramedic, and she's still my island. I've been married just over a week, so I've been telling this story a lot lately. We were 3 days into a month-long backpacking trip in Southeast Asia. We're staying in a seedy hotel in Bangkok and she gets a bad case of food poisoning. It's coming out of both ends for 24 hours. I, of course, am now designated as her nurse. I'm refilling her water bottle, getting her soup from the restaurant outside, keeping her company and, most importantly, emptying the trash bin she keeps puking into. After one trip to empty her vomit bucket, I come back into the room and she's asleep. I looked at her and thought to myself, I'm not even bothered by this. I'd do anything for her. This is the woman I'm going to marry. She's a disgusting barf fairy, but she's my disgusting barf fairy. Zero regrets. When we were having a conversation and she kept making me laugh. Her sense of humor is incredible. It also helped when I was taking her out on an early date and she said, "You're spending too much money on me." She knew money was very tight for me. We were in college. Our 34th anniversary is this Saturday. When my son called her mama, my ex left us high and dry when my son was 4 months old. She told me on several occasions that she would murder me if I dumped her after she turned 40. So I proposed on her 40th birthday. The very first time I laid eyes on her, we married after going steady for 15 months and remained married for 56 years, until her death 3 years ago. Blue-eyed blonde Anna 10 in my book, miss her terribly. The day she took off work to help me go through a dumpster, I had accidentally thrown my keys in the trash while cleaning out my car. For the most part, it was the fact that the very day we started dating she was staying at my house, not quite living there, just hanging out forever till that turned into living with me. Never thought too much about it till a year later and realized that we have never spent a day away from each other. Married September 2006, and still going strong. Once I got flu, she stood by me day and night until I recovered. I got to see her nurturing side for the first time. I was already in love with her. This sealed the deal. I actually have a picture I took of her the moment I realized it. Nothing in particular happened. We had been dating for a while and went on vacation together. When we arrived at the resort, we were sitting on the veranda having a drink and it just hit me. This is the girl I am going to marry. So I immediately took her picture. The look on her face is sort of like, "Why are you looking at me like that?" I realize this is buried and nobody will see it and it's not a cool or funny story, but I wanted to put in my answer to be archived on the interwebs forever. I just love that girl so much. I was 18 and just gotten out of a dental appointment where 2 of my wisdom teeth were pulled out. I was drooling, stains of blood all over my shirt, and it was the summertime. My girlfriend at the time was 16, took what little money she had from her allowance, bought me a box of ice cream and biked 25 minutes just to deliver that box of ice cream and see how I was doing. With blood stains all over, she still gave me that look of love and planted a kiss on me. That was almost 20 years ago and I still can't imagine having a happier life without her in it. On our 4th date we got a cheap pizza and went to a park in October up north. We fell asleep and woke up freezing at 2 in the morning. Instead of getting up and leaving, we just held each other and went back asleep for another 2 hours. I knew from that moment I was gonna marry this girl. Things were going really well, and I was saying to myself, if this keeps up, I think next summer I'll pop the question. Then, my mother had a stroke. We were all sitting in the waiting area outside the ICU, because only 2 people were allowed in at a time. It was my now wife's birthday, and a Wednesday, and she didn't hesitate to take the day off to sit with me and my family. I went to visit my father at home, and she came with me. Her Italian instincts kicked it, and she brought a load of groceries and a lasagna with her. My father was a mess at the hospital, and it fell on me and my siblings to speak with the doctors and make plans. I would get home and pour myself some bourbon. She made me dinner and just sat with me while I silently sobbed. It wasn't about how great we were when things were good. It was about how perfect she was when things were bad. I bought the ring 2 months later. I was divorced going on my 3rd year. Had dated several women, but this one girl I only had been dating 10 days when I blurted out asking her to marry me. She said yes. It's been 32 years now and we're still very much in love. My husband tells me he knew when he casually asked me this question on our 2nd date. What time is it? Correct answer, and the answer I gave? It's howdy doody time. Married 24 years in August. When she said, if you asked me to marry you, I'd say yes. Just happened to me about 2 weeks ago. No lie, I was washing my hands in the bathroom and it hit me out of left field. I knew right then and there I wanted to marry her. Got the ring yesterday. Wish me luck. Edit. She said yes. While making Rice Krispie treats, my future wife snuck a spoonful of the melted marshmallow and made me a fresh peanut butter and marshmallow fluff sandwich without me noticing. When I took the first bite, I knew I'd never find anyone better. I lived in a half-decent apartment in Hell's Kitchen in NYC. The place had a tub that was massively stained when I moved in. Every chick I dated tried to get the stain out. This was in the 90s when I was young and single in NYC. So that means plenty of women took a shot at it. My future wife came out of the bathroom one day and nonchalantly said, "Clean the tub." I ran into the bathroom and couldn't believe my eyes. That was my sword in the stone. How did you do it? Meh, I don't give up. She insisted on cooking me steak on one of our first few dates. It was the best steak I'd ever had. I ended up drunkenly confessing my love soon afterward, for the stakes, of course. Hot redhead on St. Patrick's Day drinking Guinness out of a pitcher. That's the girl for me. Introduced myself. Spent the rest of the day with her. Stumbled to a buddy's who lived close to the bar. Told him I met the girl I was going to marry. Been 20 plus years. I don't even care how cliche it is. I knew the first moment I saw her. It was the super weird feeling of intuition that I'd never felt before, and that never went away. It was like, yep, you're going to marry her someday. In the meantime, you should figure yourself out because you're kind of a giant tool right now. We didn't even date until 5 years later. Dated other people and had our own lives. And during that whole time she was just this little seed waiting patiently in the back of my subconsciousness. Marriage has been at times euphoric and at times agonizing. Right now it's better than ever. Our second baby will be born next week, smiley face. We were young. I was moving across the country to be with her at the time, and she got our apartment already before I got there. Our bathroom was really small. She had purchased this blue bathroom rug for the floor, and because the rug was too large she carefully cut out these notches for the sink stand and the front of the toilet bowl so the carpet would fit perfectly flat. She cut the bathroom rug perfectly. I knew she had to be mine. My wife and I were good friends before we became romantically involved. She was one of the guys, and it wasn't unusual to roughhouse a little. This sounds sexual in retrospect, but it really wasn't at the time. You know that thing you used to do to your sister when you were like 12, where you'd pin her down and threaten to spit on her by letting the spit hang out of your mouth, then sucking it back up at the last minute? Dear God, I hope I'm not the only one who did this. Well, I did that to my friend now wife, except I waited too long and I accidentally spit directly in her eye. Instead of being furious like a normal person, she busted out laughing. We've been married 12 years. We danced together at her high school graduation party. We had been out a few times previous but were not dating at the time. I was invited by another girl's mother. She was hosting the party. That was 38 years ago. We've been married 30 years. We dated for 8 years. It was our first date. It was the last day of classes before Thanksgiving break. She was supposed to drive home after class. It was just a coffee date that stretched out for several hours. It was just comfortable. Conversation flowed. I wasn't worried about saying anything dumb or silly. We were completely ourselves. It culminated in a shy kiss in her car before she left to drive home. Her mom knew why she was late, just by her mood. I went back to my apartment and talked to my roommate. I told him there was something special about this girl. We'll be celebrating our 10-year anniversary this summer. When she was meeting my parents, she put together an outfit and asked, "What do you think? Does this say, 'Hey parents, look at me, I'm awesome,' or 'I slept with your son on the first date'?" This may be a bit unusual, but the way she could toss an insult around. I tend to tease playfully, and she could always toss banter right back. We ended up insulting each other so much that my friend had to assure his girlfriend that we were only kidding and didn't hate each other. It was great. On or about our second date, my future spouse was on call for her medical job. Her beeper went off. Dates the story, and we rushed to the hospital where I got to watch her handle a trauma case. I saw confidence, expertise, calmness under pressure, kindness and caring and a few other desired traits shine forth, and with that added to her package I knew she was someone I could respect for the rest of my life. We celebrate our 24th anniversary this fall. Getting married next month. She came over 2 weeks into us dating with a Batman costume for my cat. She put my cat in the costume and then chased the cat around the apartment singing "Da na 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 Batcat." There was never a doubt in my mind after that. I have never been in a fight in my life, always trying to disperse hostility via conversation or humor. I have been ready to fight, not necessarily wanting to fight but 100% ready for one. 2 times in my entire life. Both were when I thought my fiancée, now wife, was in danger. May seem stupid but that's because I can't emphasize how little I want to fight. All I cared for was her safety. This was a big deal and a big realization for me that this one was the one. Like our 4th date. At her house, the episode of The Simpsons is on where they're hiding the town's trash everywhere. Without any prompting or ever talking about the show Doug, we both simultaneously said "stash our trash." Beautify Bluffington. An absolutely inconsequential line in a mediocre show neither of us had seen in over a decade. We boned. I took her down to the lake to meet my family. Previous girls had been afraid to get into the lake. It's a small lake so it can get kind of mucky. She forgot the bottom to her bikini, which I thought, oh boy, how convenient. Now you can't get in the lake. I roll. Instead she swipes my basketball shorts out of my bag, says "frick it," and throws them on and goes sprinting to the lake and jumps in with a big cannonball before anyone else even gets in. Impressed the hell out of everyone. She can hang. I stepped on a girl's foot at a festival. I turned and apologized sincerely, and the girl accepted my apology. Her drunk friend though decided to start screaming at me and threatened to assault me, saying I'm a girl, you can't hit back. When she shoved me, my future wife came out of nowhere and punched her so hard her shoe came off. I said, yup, I'm marrying this woman. Please subscribe if you liked the video. It really helps the channel to grow. See you again.